This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show. As first responders, we risk our lives every day. Our financial security is under attack. Our pensions are in a state of emergency. A single on-duty incident can alter or erase our earning potential instantly and forever. We are the heroes of society. We are self-reliant and we need to take care of our own financial future. The Heroic Investing Show is our toolkit of business and investing tactics on our mission to financial freedom.
It's my pleasure to bring you Kari Lake. She is a candidate for governor of Arizona, and she has done some gutsy things you're going to hear about and has some good ideas, I think, for our future. Kari, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be on your podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure. And Kari, I'd like to first start with your big decision that was really a life-altering decision. You left a very good career that I'm sure paid extremely well to take a big pay cut and go into politics, but you really followed your conscience, and that impresses me. And I'd just like to, have you tell a little bit about that.
I had a 3-decade career in journalism and working for the mainstream media. And for the most part, I loved my career most of that time. I made it to the top, which is becoming a main anchor in a very big market, Phoenix, Arizona. It's a market that reaches 82% of the state of Arizona. And I most recently had worked for the Fox affiliate in Arizona. And I loved my career for so many years. I always felt like I was making a difference in the community. I felt like I was a very balanced and fair reporter and anchor. And I enjoyed my career. Shortly after I arrived at the Fox affiliate, we bumped into the ratings into #1 with my long-term partner, John Hook. And we remained there pretty much for the entire time that we anchored together. And if you know anything about television and local television or even national, to remain at #1 for 22 years is almost an impossible feat. But we were a very popular team. We worked well together, and the people of Arizona liked and trusted us. So it was a great job. I was probably at the one of the highest paid people in the business. And obviously, journalism leans left, but it's gotten to where it just really lost all balance. And, I think I would say 95% of the people in local news and national news at the mainstream corporate media are left-leaning or full-on leftist. And, I always just try to keep things balanced. And I thought, if what I'm putting out and what my words are balanced, then I can live with this. And even though in the past I thought about getting out because of that, I felt like as a conservative person, if I leave, there's one fewer conservative in the business, the industry. So I always kind of stuck with it. But when COVID struck, actually when Donald Trump came on the scene, people really started losing their minds. And I watched as the media just, made it their mission to try to bring down a candidate and then a president. And I felt that was really wrong, because President Trump did a lot of good things. I think he always first and foremost kept the American people as his #1 priority. But the media just wanted to castigate him at every turn. And, if he did something really great, that might have gotten 20 seconds of airtime in the mainstream media versus some made up story about him that they tried to turn into a bigger thing, which would get 2 minutes.
Right.
So it was really frustrating to cover him and watch how people covered him.
Yeah,
but when
it is so unfair what goes on in the media, Kari. One of the ways it happens, there's a lot of obvious bias for people who are willing to look for it and willing to see it. But I'd say the biggest part of it is really a saying that I repeat all the time on my show, and it is from an old Sherlock Holmes episode. And the saying is, you can't hear the dogs that don't bark. So people will never form opinions about stories they never hear. And stuff that they now sadly never see on social media because of the censorship. It is just scary. And in fact, I would argue that the censorship that is going on, especially by the big tech companies, is quite possibly the biggest problem the human race is facing. And keep in mind, we have COVID raging, so I think this is likely a bigger problem.
Totally. I mean, you kind of hit it there. It's not so much what they put in the newscast, it's what they leave out.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. and it really struck me during COVID, because what was being put out, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. What they put out in the media was just constant fear, worst case scenarios, a family wiped out, but they didn't talk about the thousands of other more typical cases where somebody had a mild, moderate, maybe even a severe flu, but got over it. Yeah. There was no appetite to talk about treatments that were working. And I tried to, as a journalist, put those out on my social media. And I would have the local paper writing me up saying I'm wearing a tinfoil hat and I'm crazy. And they still do to this day. As a candidate, they call me a conspiracy theorist because I happen to have the courage to say, hey, there are some treatments that work if you don't want to get the vaccine. Yeah. And, but people are onto it. They're sick of being called names. How many times can you call somebody a terrible name before people just go, whatever? We've got a country to save. And at the end of the day, Jason, I don't care what they call me, the names they call me. If my country is still standing at the end of this, they can call me whatever they want, because I'm interested in saving my state and saving this country. And if we all don't stand up, the ones of us with common sense, and risk that public shaming that they're going to put on us unfairly, it's an unfair public shaming, then we're going to lose our country. And that's why I jumped in and decided to run. After I resigned from my career, several months later, after many people said, would you please consider running for office? We need somebody with integrity. I decided to throw my hat into it, and it's been going incredibly well. We are the front runner by a by a mile. And we've got a real grassroots campaign. Arizonans are very interested in what we're talking about.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. And I agree with you. It sure does feel like we are on the precipice. Things have gotten so bad and so divided. I don't know, it's kind of hard to see that there's a recovery from this without, possibly secession movements and things like that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I have hope. I am very concerned that we can't wait till the 22 election, that things are going so fast out of control. I believe that these mandates that are being pushed on the public from their employer saying, you're going to either do this, get the shot, or get out. Yep. I think that's going to backfire. And I'm seeing it here in Arizona, people who aren't political, they work at a hospital, they're being forced to get a vaccine they don't want. Yep. I'm seeing them start to get political. They've never been political. They would even say that they aren't Republicans, but now they're jumping in because they don't want this. They don't want these mandates. They want their medical freedom. So I think this could be one of the big issues that brings us together. And the schools forcing stuff on their students.
It's amazing. It feels just like a witch hunt. It feels like apartheid. It is massive discrimination. Reading these articles that say unvaccinated people should not be allowed to work, have kids, or live anywhere. I mean,
or go grocery shopping.
It's incredible.
They're going to starve us to death. Yeah. We were just in New York. I had the pleasure of having a meeting with President Trump last week, and we got there on Sunday. The meeting was Monday, and we were trying to get reservations to a restaurant. We'd been traveling all day. We were starving. The first 3 restaurants we called, they wanted a vaccine passport from all of us. And, we started panicking. We're like, where are we going to eat? We finally found a restaurant that would accept us, but this is where we're going. New York is a pretty scary place right now. Doesn't feel like United States of America. It feels like communist America.
I couldn't agree more. And, COVID checks all the boxes for a tyrannical dictator. I mean, think about it. Curfews, tracking, put a tattoo on your forehead, whether or not you've got the shot. It's just scary how
election manipulation.
Yeah.
But COVID, again, how about manipulating an election, sending out tons of mail-in ballots that I was just talking to somebody who's been going door to door, and they went to a door of a Democrat voter. One person lived there. 8 ballots were showed up from that address. The person said, it's just one of me. I didn't have 8 ballots. Yep. So there's a lot of funny business going on.
And speaking of how you can't hear the dogs that don't bark, any video I have done about the thing we did in November, I don't even want to say the word.
I call it the debacle of 2020.
Very good. Anything about that has been taken down. Vimeo has removed them. YouTube has removed them. Facebook has removed content. They put me on a timeout for a month. It's absolutely scary what is happening. And you know, Kari, here's what's interesting. You're going to be in government, and I'm wondering what you think of this. Is the government actually using of course they're using the media, but are they using the big tech companies as a proxy? See, the government can't restrict your speech under the First Amendment, but a private company sure can. And the problem is these private companies have become so large that you almost have to argue they're like the government, and their revenue is bigger than the GDP. If Facebook was a country, for example, its annual revenue would be number 71 in terms of GDP compared to all countries on earth, all 200 and some odd countries, right? Facebook would be 71. So just think about that. Is this a private company anymore? I don't think so.
Well, and we're finding out that there are government entities that have a direct line basically to Twitter and such that can tell you to take down an account.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fascism right there. That's Absolutely. Fascism. I would like to see working with the legislators when I'm governor, that we worked to outlaw censorship in any form here in Arizona. And I think with legislation, we have to break up these companies. These tech companies have gotten too big and powerful. Yep. And when you start controlling the information going out, that is so dangerous. It can shut down economies. It can send people into great levels of fear where they behave irrationally and do irrational things. It's not just what's happening in the media, which I left because I said, I can't do this anymore. It's not just unethical, it's immoral. And once you realize something's immoral because you're hurting your community, you're causing division, anger, fear, I decided to walk away from that. But when you think about it, the television stations aren't that powerful anymore. It is all in social media. Right. I don't have all the answers, but something has to be done. It really needs to be done from, I believe Congress needs to get involved. But if not there, we have to find a way here in our state to make a difference so that our residents of Arizona still have the First Amendment rights, the Second Amendment rights. We've got to kind of think smaller, maybe just at a state level, because we can't count on the federal government.
I agree. And maybe what is happening in Florida will happen in Arizona too. People are voting with their feet because they're just fed up with this. And of course, what our Governor DeSantis is doing here in Florida. He's doing some great stuff. Hopefully that trend will catch. But there just hasn't been much appetite for antitrust cases really in decades now. There's a little bit of it, but just not much. And so I would propose that, you could approach it from an antitrust angle. These companies are too big. They should be busted up under antitrust laws. But if we don't get that, another way to do it is to just force them to make their algorithms public so we can see why we see what we see in our news feeds and search engine results and things like that. That would be an option. Or to regulate them as a common carrier like the phone company. Kari, if you and I have a conversation the phone company doesn't agree with, and by the way, these phone companies are pretty woke. T-Mobile is terrible. They censored Tucker Carlson. So, if we have a conversation they don't like, as long as we pay the bill, they don't get to shut off our phone service. Okay.
Yet.
Yet. Yes, I know.
I don't put anything past them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sadly, that's true. But, regulate them like they're utilities. These companies are so big, they need to be considered utilities. And the other part about how they don't have to patrol their platforms. So, for example, if someone is defaming you and you're just a private person, of course, if you're a celebrity, it's a different rule. But if you're just a private person and someone is doing that, they can just say, we don't have to do anything. We're just a big tech company. We're just a platform. How come, as much as I don't like them, the New York Times doesn't get to say that? They have to have staff to control what goes in their op-ed pages and the comments on their website. Why doesn't Facebook have that resposibility? It's one way or the other.
I agree. I think they should be utilities. And you can find there's really disturbing images and videos on Twitter. They're not controlling that. The worst of the worst is available and you can see it on Twitter, but they're controlling and taking somebody like the President of the United States, off of Twitter, but they're allowing the leaders of the Taliban to be on. I just heard that one of the mothers who lost her son, he was a Marine, a fallen Marine in Afghanistan, in that horrible tragedy. She has been removed from Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg and his cronies removed her from Facebook because she posted something that was very critical of Joe Biden. It is horrifying. I can't believe it. I think we're probably close to the same age. I'm not sure. I'm a Gen Xer, and I came up with Ronald Reagan as president my entire childhood for the most part. I am all about freedom, patriotism, and appalled. I mean, the dirtiest word you can say is communism. And we're seeing it take hold in this country right now. And it is so frightening. I believe it's going to be our generation, Jason, that really pulls us back from the brink, because a lot of the baby boomers that, maybe weren't raised in that same way that we were raised. Right. And I do believe we have a big young group of conservatives coming up, the ones who've been tortured the last year and a half. They are all going to be conservative. I think it's going to be our generation that has to, grab onto this patriotism and this pride for America that we grew up with, and save the day, jumping in, getting involved in political races, running for a school board. We just have to jump in right now because we don't have a lot of time to save this country. Yeah.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. The millennial generation leans very heavily toward socialism, unfortunately. That's communism's ugly little brother, right? It's the same basic thing, and the end result is almost the same. I just wonder, will they grow out of it? If you look at the baby boomers and look at the way they were when you watch a documentary about, say, Woodstock in the 60s, right? They were kids. They were different than they grew up to be, right? Will the millennials grow out of it, or does this just never change? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a sociologist, but I will. The thing that worries me about the millennials is many of them aren't choosing not to have families, choosing not to get married. Usually when you get married, you start to have children, your perspective on everything changes. And I know a lot of millennials who are now into their 40s and they have no interest in having children. They think marriage is terrible. They don't want to be in a patriarchal society. Yep. I know people personally in that age group who don't want to have children because they're afraid of climate change. They have been so brainwashed. So those are those big moments in life where you really start to change and shift your perspective, and they're not having those moments.
It's very sad. It really is. Sad. What else says shorting the future, lack of faith in the future, but the choice not to have children? That millennial example that you gave might have been the one to solve a whole array of problems. Humans do create a mess, admittedly, but they also clean up the mess. Human beings are a resource. On the right, I think we like people. On the left, I don't think they like people. They think people are the scourge of the earth. I think people solve problems. They're a resource, not a cost.
Well, one of the things I say on the left is in a lot of the environmental movement is they care about every animal, insect, and creature except the Homo sapien, the human being.
Unfortunately,
they care so much about every bug and every bird that they will literally take away a human being's ability to survive, to feed their offspring, to protect that. Yep. It's really twisted. And I spoke recently. I did to some young Republican women, 18 to 25 years old, a turning point event. And I talked about the great lie of the feminist movement. They're being told not to marry, to strive to be equal to men. And you know what? We aren't equal to men. Yep. Women are different than men. Right. Men have amazing qualities and women have amazing qualities. We're meant to be partners. Yep. And to take away, women do things that men can't do. Right. And it's a beautiful thing to be a mother, but they've been talked out of getting married, talked out, push back any relationship, don't have a relationship, career first. And at the end of the day, in your darkest moment, your career, the corporation you work for is not going to hug you and hold you.
It's not going to do anything for you. Yeah. I've seen that story play out so many times with so many women who become very depressed as they move into their 30s and 40s and later, they just feel like they missed out. What was the whole point of getting an MBA and climbing the career ladder? In the old days, the complaint was, well, women are subservient to men, right? Fair enough. That was true through a lot of history. No question about it. I agree. But now they're just slaves of corporations. I mean, they're literally giving their lives for these corporations that do not care about them, and they don't care about the men either. Okay, they don't care about either one.
You're right.
Yeah, everybody's replaceable. But the women, and on the flip side of that, you mentioned the feminist movement, and sadly, on the flip side of it, there's this whole movement of men who have responded to that with the MGTOW movement that is huge. And that stands for men going their own way. They just don't want to pay the price and take the risk of marriage because it can be financially devastating. You know, they don't generally get custody of their children. The fathers have much less rights than the mothers, yet they have to foot the bill for everything most of the time.
Well, and even having a connection with a woman with the Me Too movement became risky. Even having a conversation in the office.
Yeah.
And the feminist movement behind I believe the left has been behind the terminology toxic masculinity. I mean, I know we're not getting into business here. This is more social stuff, but the left has been evil genius in how they use words. Right. Think about the issue of abortion. Abortion is the taking of a most innocent life. But they don't want to say we're pro-abortion. Right. So they come up with pro-choice. Yeah. And sadly, the people who are anti-abortion, which is mainly on the right, fell into that trap and said, okay, well, then we're pro-life. Mm-hmm. And what really they should have said is we are against abortion. We are against the killing of God's most innocent of creations. And but we fell into that trap so now it's pro-life, pro-choice. Yeah. And really what the issue is abortion, the taking of the most innocent life.
And there's so much hypocrisy there because, Kari, like you're talking about that, and look at the hypocrisy of what's going on now. My body, my choice, right? That's what they'd say. And now when it comes to a jab in your arm, it's not your choice, right?
Exactly. It's Fauci's choice.
Completely illogical.
Well, but the same thing with masculinity. I mean, masculinity is one of the most beautiful things in the world. This is how God created men. And to take that and turn it into a negative by calling it toxic masculinity. Yeah. And what we're doing to our boys, I'm the mom of a boy and I'm the mother of a daughter as well. What we've done to our boys, I don't know if we'll ever be able to measure the damage we've done to our boys in the last 10, 15 years by pushing men down. If you watch commercials, they're always the butt of the joke. If you watch movies,
sitcoms,
always the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can never criticize a woman, but you can just tear apart the guys. It makes me sick to my stomach as a mother of a son. And I try to point these things out when we're watching movies. I say, watch what they're doing here. This is part of an agenda. I mean, I'm terrible to watch a movie with, by the way, Jason.
Right.
My kids start to roll around. But I will say this, my kids are very aware of these underlying messages and agendas that the left have done to us societally. And, it's been a mess culturally, and it leads to it's a one-way street to misery for people.
You're right. And, the left is much better at political campaigning. They're much better at words. They pull at the heartstrings. They appeal to emotion, not logic. And it works. It really does work. And, you mentioned earlier, and I wanted to make a comment on it, Kari, the way they're dismissive of people by calling them conspiracy theorists, right? Yep. Well, the reality is a lot of these things are just conspiracy facts. I mean, anybody who denies that people aren't conspiring to make agendas occur, they're crazy. That's crazy. Of course, people are conspiring to do that all the time, all day long. The birth of the United States was a conspiracy against England. There are conspiracies around us all the time. How can you deny that, right? So it doesn't mean you're wearing a tinfoil hat. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It's just, these are factual things that occur. It's just
the true conspiracy planning something. Are the leftist media. I mean, really, I've talked about conspiracy that have no truth, but CNN has been peddling forever, and especially during COVID, so much of that has been proven to be false, not factual. Yet they're calling people who actually are putting out information that could help people save lives the conspiracy theorists. But the good news is they've thrown these words around so much. They've called people racist, Nazis, white supremacists, conspiracy theorists, sexist.
Becoming immune.
Misogynist, we could go all day with what they call it. It's become completely ineffectual, where people now just roll their eyes at it. Yeah. And the great thing I'm seeing on the campaign trail, and our campaign is so exciting. Within 3 weeks of announcing we were running, the excitement was crazy. We had enough signatures to be on the ballot. We were the only candidate in the state of Arizona that's assured to be on the ballot. We've had 4,000 donors in 3 months. That's a huge number. This is a grassroots campaign. People are very excited. We've even had people switch their voter registration from Democrat to Republican because they're so excited about this candidacy. So people are getting, they're sick of being called names. They're ready to speak out. They're not going to self-censor anymore because they know if they self-censor and worry about people calling them names, they're going to lose their country. And they are ready to go. And so I'm very excited about it. We're doing great in the polls. One of our recent polls shows us at 37.4% of the vote. My next closest competitor is at 11%, and everybody else behind that is like 2 and 3%.
You're triple. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, we are. And I had a wonderful meeting with President Trump. I was invited to come and speak with him. We had a rally here a few weeks ago, about a month ago, for the elections. And it was talking about kind of saving our election system. And the president spoke at it, and he introduced all the gubernatorial candidates at that. And the roaring response I received really surprised President Trump. He was like, wow, holy smokes, that was something else. So it wasn't too long after that, I got a call from President Trump's office inviting me to New York, and I was there last Monday for a really good meeting with the president. So I have a lot of hope in our campaign. I feel very strongly that we can win this, and we will win this, and we will save Arizona from the socialist who's running on the Democrat ticket, because we don't have a lot of time. If that woman over there on that side, Katie Hobbs, wins, she was the one who was in charge of the debacle of 2022 here in Arizona, and now she wants to be the governor. We will become California 2.0. And then people in Arizona are going to have to rent the U-Hauls, sell everything, and go to Florida or find another red state. And we're running out of states where freedom still exists.
You're right. You're right. What do you think about this trend of Californians? I mean, look, I grew up in California, spent most of my life there. What do you think about this trend, Kari, of people leaving California because they're so fed up with a state that's just turned into a complete disaster in almost every way, and they're leaving California, yet because of political reasons, then they're bringing the same politics that they left to their new state. They're running for city council, school board, whatever, and they're bringing these wacky policies. It makes no sense to me.
It's so maddening, and Arizonans are really fed up with that.
So are
I've got
Texans.
A lot of California friends who come here, and they truly are conservative.
Yep.
But I know what you're talking about, the ones, and they don't even think they're liberal. They think they're moderate. But they're bringing these liberal ideas. It's kind of a slow roll into liberalism. It's really frustrating. And not only that, they've driven up the cost of housing, because they come in and they pay full price and then some for a house, because when they sell their property in California, they make so much money. It's really affected the quality of life here in Arizona, and people are keenly aware of it. That's why one of my overarching campaign issues is don't California our Arizona. We love our Western heritage here. We love what makes Arizona unique. We want to be the freest state in the country. And we don't want these liberal policies that are destructive to our communities. They're destructive to our economy. They're destructive to our children, our education system. We just don't want it. I don't believe. And they left California, you're right, because in many cases, California is a lost cause. The politics are so twisted over there, and you can't win an election because the elections are rigged.
Iron triangles.
So I don't blame them for leaving, but hopefully they're waking up to the fact that people are not too keen on the Californians coming over and bringing the liberal policies with them.
Kari, tell our listeners and viewers how people can support your campaign or get involved, a donation or actual involvement, whatever. What's your website?
It's karilake.com, KARILAKE.com. You can find where I stand on the issues there. You can find out more about volunteering. We've got an army of volunteers, more than probably some presidential campaigns have had. And you can make a contribution. Even if you're from out of state, a lot of people are really keeping their eye on Arizona, because unlike Vegas, what happens in Arizona doesn't stay in Arizona. The policies that affect us, the things that happen here, spread into the other states, especially when it comes to what's happening at our border. So we need a tough governor, one who knows right from wrong, who has common sense, is not afraid to stand up, push back against the corrupt media, And believe me, I have a lot of fun pushing back against these bozos in the media who are nothing more than activists and are really trying to destroy the state. They're the ones who pushed our Republican governor into taking some of these draconian policies that hurt our small businesses, hurt families, hurt our health, because he was afraid of the activist media. And I will never, ever bow down to the activist media, ever.
Yeah. Good.
I won't shut our state down.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. And Kari, we are so looking forward to your visit to our collective mastermind group that is in Scottsdale, Arizona, the first weekend of November. You've graciously offered to speak there, so we're really looking forward to having you and hosting you there. But just wrap it up with any closing thoughts. And the website is karilake.com. That's Kari, right? You got that?
Yep.
Correct. Okay.
lake.com.
Yep.
You know, I just think, Jason, we're really at a tipping point right now. And I don't think it's too late, but we have some evil forces kind of coming after us. We've watched as politicians have sold us out to China. They've sold us out to these woke corporations and woke universities. They've sold out this country, and people are sick of politics as usual. They're sick of these recycled, washed up politicians running time and time again, and they want a political outsider. I am that outsider. I'm conservative. I know the state of Arizona well, and I will never back down to that the woke politics. Yeah. As I said in one of my speeches, we got to drive a stake through the heart of these woke politics so that they don't rear their ugly communist head again. And that's where we are. I know it sounds dramatic, but it's not.
It's true. It's double speak. It's like what George Orwell wrote about in 1984. It's just double speak. That's what they promote.
So I'm running as someone, as a candidate who loves the state, and I will do everything in my power to save it and protect it. And I hope people will take a look at my website and consider making a donation, because I'm funded by the people, not the swamp. And we do have a swamp in Arizona.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, good stuff. Well, Kari Lake, thank you so much for joining us. Best wishes with your campaign. And I look forward to seeing you at our upcoming event in November. So thanks again for joining us.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jason. Have a great day.
So George Gammon, Jason Hartman, and we've created a high-level mastermind group called The Collective. The goal of The Collective is for you to learn from the three of us, as well as, of course, the other members, on how to build and, more importantly, how to maintain your wealth. In this video, we're going to go into detail about what The Collective is and what it can do for you. Enjoy. So I'm Ken McElroy. I've been in real estate for over 30 years. Started with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath using my own money, and now I own over $1 billion worth of real estate that I bought over the years, built a big company. We have a construction company, a development company, a property management company, and of course an investment company. And typically now we syndicate and work with large, both private and public institutions for the equity and the debt. And so what I bring to The Collective is how to scale, how to grow, starting with one really small property with no experience at all and growing it into an organization, which I've been able to do, that basically runs almost without me. So that's what I'm going to bring to The Collective. We decided to start The Collective because, one, I met George Gammon, and George brings a very interesting perspective about the economy and the Fed and the way money works and Bitcoin and alternative types of investments, which, quite honestly, I was super focused on real estate almost the entire time. And even I want to be a little bit more diverse. So when I talk to George and to Jason, they're always doing very, very different things on the investment side. Jason specifically is more focused on the single family housing and what's going on in that market, so that we could collaborate and have different viewpoints on different things. And so that's why I thought The Collective would be good, because I think everybody's kind of searching for the same kinds of answers. So The Collective means to me basically the collective group, the whole. And I've always been a big believer of team and collaboration. So for me, it really means collaboration, of everyone kind of coming into a room and learning from each other based on their individual highs and their individual lows, and to be very, very respectful of all their independent views on things and to be more open-minded, transparent, and authentic. So I cannot wait for the group to get together each and every quarter, because we all have very different walks of life that we're going through. And so it's very, very cool to get into one room with like-minded people. I think the right person for the collective is somebody who's into personal development, somebody who's trying to be a better individual, somebody who's trying to have that work-life balance, trying to figure out good decision-making on the investment side specifically, good decision-making on the personal side perhaps, certainly on their health and on their wealth. The members that have already signed up are people typically that have businesses that they're growing, businesses that they've started, or businesses that they've sold. So typically they're higher net worth and they're trying to figure out what to do with their money. They're probably a little bit afraid of inflation. They're probably a little bit concerned about where to invest. And they're obviously looking at real estate as one component, somebody that's trying to do the right things both on the personal side and on the financial side. So some of the experiences that members can expect to get out of the collective are certainly the network. And I think that's always super powerful. I've been involved in groups like this before, like EO and YPO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization, which is kind of a peer-to-peer network. And that's what I envisioned, and I think people are going to certainly get that out of there. They're going to have lifelong friends for sure from this, and they're going to meet people at every single event. But also, we're going to have fun. So as an example, things like race car driving and doing all kinds of really cool things and meeting celebrities and things like that and fashion shows are going to be part of it. So it's kind of how do we have fun and learn together, and we're going to have that at each and every event. So thanks for watching. If you guys are interested, there's a link below you can click on. It'll take you right to the website, which has a load of information on exactly what the collective is, where the next events are, and what exactly you'll be getting if you become a member. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.